Hey guys, welcome back to our mental health and well-being podcast. Today's episode is on the overall conversation with mental health within the young generation. Today we have two guest speakers. We have Kelly, who is an experienced counselor. She works with young people, and Montana, who is a young person who has had lived experience on today's topic. So I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. If Kelly, sorry, would like to go first.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Kelly Mcneill. I'm an experienced counsellor. I work with adults and with young people, currently working in a boys' school. I've also had about 25 years experience working with young people in different capacities, and this topic is something that's really close to my heart. So thank you for inviting me to be a part.
I'm Montana Beverny, 23 years old. I'm into digital marketing and hosting at the moment. And like Savannah said, I have had experience on today's topics through family members, friends, ex-partners and stuff. So, yeah, thank you for bringing me here today.
Okay, so today's first question is first directed to Kelly. And what inspired you to get into this line of work?
That's a really good question. I think for me, one thing that's always remained with me was how I experienced life as a young person. Looking back now, if the kind of things in place, the sort of looking back on what's available now, if that had been in place when I was younger, I think I probably wouldn't have suffered with a lot of things that I did in my adult life. So being very aware of that, I wanted to be able to provide a place to give young people a voice, to be heard, to be listened to, and to be validated. Because I think, that's something that young people don't always get, that validation and that place to express themselves. So hence me working with young people in youth groups, but also on a level of mental health, because I think that is so important. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Another question to expand off of what you just said. And you said that you work within a boys' school, and I feel like that's very different, because a lot of the time when you do speak on mental health, it's very much aimed towards females and girls, and it's very kind of hidden and not spoken within boys.
Yeah.
So, do you find like there's a big difference between when you're speaking to girls compared to when you're speaking to boys?
In my experience, no. And I think there's a myth that boys don't talk, and males in general hold all their feelings in. That's not been my experience at all. And like I said, even though I work in a boys' school, we do have a sixth form, so I see females and males, and there really is, for me, no different in how each person engages. I think, like I said, it's more about the fact of actually someone cares. And if someone's listening, doesn't matter what gender you are, you're going to take that advantage and you're going to talk.
That's true.
So yeah, that's been my experience.
Okay. So if you can speak on it, what kind of issues do you really find young people to speak on within like this day and age, especially now, especially like last year we was in lockdown for a long length of time, which did have a very big impact on everyone's mental health, whether you're young or old. So excluding that time frame, prior to that, what was like one of the main issues or a few main issues that young people would speak on?
There's a myriad, really. And I think it depends on the kind of age group. So upper years, 10, 11, mainly during those years, it was a lot of exam stress, relationship stress, self-image. And just almost like a dread of the future. A lot also with knife crime and losing close friends to that, having to work with people that are you know, grieving, whether it's family members or close friends. So that's just a couple of things that I've worked with over the years.
Okay, to elaborate on that, I'm going to go to Montana for a second. I'm going to speak on like secondary school. And obviously, I know we both was in secondary school not that long ago. Let's just say that, not that long ago. And obviously, like, it's true with self-image and stuff like that. That does have a big impact, and social media. And I'll kind of say that our generation was like the generation where social media, we were just going into social media. So it was a very new thing, which that was like a start of a lot. How did you deal with that? Or what advice could you give on how you may have dealt with that?
How I dealt with that? I'm really someone that just doesn't really care. Like, I used to be, in primary school, someone that cared. Like, anything that you said I cared about, but a lot of teachers that I did care for just reminded me that if you don't know them and they don't know you, just don't take it into account. Do you know what I mean? But advice that I would give, I don't really know, especially at the top of my head, because social media is quite. It is a good place. There are good that comes out of it, but it's hard because you've got to watch what you say, what you post, even what you don't say, what you don't post. You know what I mean? It's like you're either on this side or that side, and it is a bit hard, especially with like cyberbullying and stuff. I would just say to anyone that ever needed advice, just be yourself, do you. You're living for yourself. You've come into this world by yourself. You're coming out by yourself as well. Do you. There's no one else. There's no one else like me. There's no one else like Kellen. There's no one else like you or anybody else. So just do you. That's my advice, to be honest.
It's true. Great. How do you feel, this is both aimed to both of you guys, how do you feel that young people are battling these obstacles? Because I feel like, again, I'm going to refer to a lockdown, because there was like that big spike in TikTok, as everyone knows, and there's like a lot of things that's going on, and you know, there's very different sides, and then everything that has gone on in general within that time frame. There's just so much worldwide. How do you feel young people are starting to like battle these indifferences?
Again, because I'm in a boys' school and work predominantly with boys, social media isn't as much, it doesn't come into the room as much. And even when I was working with some of the girls, again, you know, disconnecting from social media is what I have heard. A lot of them got to a point where it was like, this is not helping, and so I'm just gonna come completely off of social media. That's what that's the kind of thing that I've been seeing and hearing, even if it is just for a short period of time, just so that they can kind of recalibrate and find where they are in this big whole mess of what's going on right now.
That is needed. Sometimes you need a detox, like from anything in life. You always need a detox. Sometimes you need to remove yourself in order for you to get your mind right and actually just see from outside of the box, inside, instead of being inside and not being able to see properly.
Yeah, it's like taking a step back. You know, when you're in something, you can't really see the impact that it's having. And I think it takes a lot of awareness to actually, a lot of self-awareness to actually say, well, this isn't helping me at the moment, so I'm just going to step back and log off until I'm in a better place, or in a place where I feel I can now go back in and engage. And also then be selective and remove the kind of instigators that are sort of, you know, triggering those things in you. And I found that helps have a little cull and sort of, you know, get rid of the ones that are not serving.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So in reference to what you said earlier about a lot of conversation is based around like knife crime that has happened, I do know that it has affected me, especially growing up in London. It's almost become like a norm and you're nodding your head because you yourself would
That's what it
know.
basically is.
It's
now.
become a norm and is it's got to a point where when you do hear something like that does happen, you're not even phased. You just completely blank to it. And it's just like, oh, okay. Another one. You're more surprised when someone survives than when someone dies. And that is very much not healthy. Yeah. It's not. And because even like sometimes you do make jokes about growing up in London and saying certain things, but that again is a coping mechanism. Absolutely. You know, dark humor. You make a joke out of the situation when you're actually hurting inside. You know, they say laugh at your pain.
Yeah.
And that is a way that a lot of young people are coping with those situations. Yeah. When deep down inside they're really hurting and they don't actually have someone to talk to because they feel like they could be next or someone very close to them could be next and they have to watch themselves. So in that aspect, how do you help reassure them?
To be honest, it is difficult because what I find it's like our young people are just in a state of hypervigilance. And it's almost like they're just running on adrenaline and, you know, hearing things like you're looking over your shoulder, you know, you see a group of young people coming towards you and it's like, you know, are they going to say something? Are they going to do something? Even when you're just minding your own business, you know? So for me, I trying to relate to that is difficult because when I was growing up, those sorts of things were real rare occasions. Now it's like you say, it's a common occurrence. And, you know, for me, the only thing I can do is I can step into their shoes and try and understand it from their perspective. And one thing that I try not to do is be prescriptive and say, oh, do this and do that, because how am I going to know what to do and how am I going to know, you know? So the only thing I can encourage them is I can listen and hear what they're saying and try and encourage and work within that and try and empower and find ways that they feel comfortable in themselves to be able to go out and engage in everyday life, you know. But to say, I don't feel I have a strategy or a solution or an answer to deal with that because I don't think you can. Yeah. Not with that fear. Yeah. You know, and like I said, the hypervigilance, you're always looking over your shoulder and, you know, I feel that actually, I find that quite heartbreaking. You can't walk down the street without worrying. And I can't get my head around that, you know, and maybe for me it's delving into this in more detail because, you know, it is something that is not unusual for me to work with these days, which I thought I never would have to. Yeah, it's true. It's almost like I was even telling the guys, like, where I grew up. I'm from Tottenham. So even to this day, there's certain areas I can't walk through. I mean, I could, but am I really going to risk that? No. That's the point. So it's like, if you really want to, you can. And it's got to a point now where whether you're a girl or a boy, they generally just don't care. Because there's so much that can happen that you have to basically reroute to get to a train station. Yeah, where I could walk through this way, make my journey 5 minutes, but because that 5-minute journey can cause anything, I have to take that 15-minute or 10-minute journey just to get to the same place.
I know that you're safe.
Exactly. And then parents have to, like, reassure their kids, tell their kids, make sure you don't go this way because blah, blah, blah. And it's also having that fear as a parent as well. Absolutely. Because you don't know, anything can happen. It could be, as they say, like, wrong place, wrong time. That does happen. Because your child could be a child that doesn't get involved in those situations. But for whatever reason, they ended up on that road at this time. And then they become a next statistic.
Or wrong identity.
That as well. And it does have a very big toll on everyone's mental health, because it doesn't help, like you said yourself, with a parent, because you can speak from parent perspective as well. Like you said, you didn't grow up having this fear as a child, so your parents didn't have this fear. But now you have to have this fear of your child when they go out. When they say, oh, I'm going to go somewhere, You have to make sure each time. And as a young person, and myself, you can, well, when I was younger, when my mum used to be like, make sure you phone me when you reach here. You're thinking, but why?
Why
Do you get what I mean? Like, why am I going to have to, like...
I'm going to be fine. Mom.
Exactly. But now when you get older and then you start realising, it's like, okay, now I know why my mum wants to make sure that I'm at this place at this time. And it does, like, I have a lot of younger cousins and nieces and nephews, and when they lie about where they were, I know I used to do it, and my mum knows.
We all did it.
We all did it.
Everyone
So,
did
you
it.
know, you lie, and then your mum, you get home safe, but your mum's annoyed, and you're thinking, yeah, but I'm safe. But it could have gone completely different, because you told me you was in A and you was all the way in Z. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
That's true.
And a lot of young people, sometimes they don't really, well, as everyone, you don't really look at it in that perspective, because you think, oh, I'm safe. But there's so much things that go on.
Yeah.
It's not just even gang violence. There's just loads of weirdos out there in general. So it's just that whole perspective no one really looks
I'm
at.
glad you actually said that.
Yeah.
From a perspective of a parent. And, you know, as a parent, I would like to say and encourage any young people that will be listening to this. Just be honest with your parents. You know, as a parent, we're not interested, or I'm certainly not wanting to get in your business. I just want to know that if, you know, God forbid, you phone me and you tell me I'm in trouble, you are where you say you are.
Yeah.
And I know where I can get to you, and I know where I can find you. So that's what I would really just shout that from the mountaintops, that any young people listening, be honest with your parents. It's because they love. It's because they love, and they want to make sure you're safe. And,
it's true.
know.
I mean, it does make
That's
a big
what
difference.
my mum ever used to say, don't lie, because if something happens
It's
and I need to get to you, how am I going to get to you?
It's true.
Exactly.
I mean, if you
have a
say
point.
you're in Walthamstow and then for whatever reason you're in Peckham, how am I going to get to
Could you
you?
imagine?
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a
That's
lot.
true.
So it's easier that way. Get yourself out of trouble in all aspects. Yeah. And that does have a big toll on everyone. Everyone gets scared. So my next question, or next statement really, is how a person's environment and upbringing also has an effect on mental health. And also wanted to like elaborate again, kind of getting more into the conversation of gang violence. You know, for me growing up, when I was in secondary school, I didn't really like going to parties, because I always knew that it will get shut down. Because there'll be one person, you know, you step on someone's shoe and they want to fight you. It's a packed environment. What do you expect? But people are just so hot-headed, and, you know, they have a weapon on them, so they already are triggered. So any little thing that happens, they're ready to pull it out and use it. Assuming you've mostly experienced those type of situations as well yourself. So if you feel comfortable enough explaining any.
You know what, to be honest, what I think it is I feel like, obviously you don't know what they've gone through in their childhood or whatever, but I feel like you said, like most of them, well, let's say some, will like either carrying a weapon, or like one little thing that really isn't nothing, or it's minor, triggers them because they're already on the edge, and they're already nervous, so they're expecting something to happen, and then something minor happens, and then it's just like, I don't know what's going on type of thing. I feel like they might lose control a bit. I have been to a party when I was a teenager. It was over capacity. A rival gang, I guess, or whoever came in, and they tried to break through and stuff, and like, you know, it just went a bit crazy. But because it was over capacity, no one could really get out of the door, and it was hard, like, for a lot of people. And that was like the first party and the only party that I've ever been to that something went down like that, or that I was involved in, really. But yeah.
I'm assuming you mostly had a lot of stories yourself as well, working with young people.
Yeah.
Where a lot of those things have happened, and I'm assuming they themselves mostly just feel a bit anxious to go places.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've had conversations where, you know, they've said, I'm not going to parties anymore because, like you say, like Montana was saying, just already on edge. already, like I said earlier, hypervigilant and just expecting it to kick off at any time. You know, and so the tiniest little thing and it kicks off, and, you know, you just don't know if you're going to come out with your life. And this is the kind of things that I've been hearing. So, you know, the solution to that was, that's the last time I'm going to a party. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a place that you go and have fun and, you know, socialise. But if you're going there and you're worried about your life, what is the point?
Yeah,
Really, what
Yeah.
is the point?
yeah, because you do see it. Sometimes walking, it's almost like as soon as one person comes in, you might see that person come through the door. You may have never seen this person in your life, but for some reason you see this one person walk in, and you're like,
know.
it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
You just know.
It's just that air, isn't
Yeah,
it? They just
it's-
carry
it's
this
the
kind of
energy.
This
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
This one person comes
Yeah.
in, and it's almost like they're looking for trouble. Literally, when they come in, and it's like, yeah, it's time for me to go. You literally just know. Because I remember one time I went to this party in Barking, and the party was going well. It was literally right at the end, and I did not know my cousin was at this party. Because it was quite a big party, but I did not know he was there. And everyone else, a whole ruckus went on. You mostly would know this, what happened, because it was on the news the next day. I didn't even know this was going on, because everyone kind of ran out, and I knew something was going on, but I really just was not bothered to go over there, because I'm like, yeah, that's not me. And unfortunately, a guy got stabbed and he died. And it was on the news and everything. It happened like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't know until I came home. And I was thinking, I was literally right there. And everyone else ran over there. And some of my friends were like, oh, let's go see what's going on. And I was like, no. I called my mum and I told her to come. I asked her, not told her. I asked her if she could come get me. And I explained what was happening. So obviously she came. And 2 of my friends was there. And one of them wanted to go over there. So I said, if you go over there, my mum's not dropping you home. So as soon as I said that, she was like, okay. Cool. Do you get what I mean? So she came. Fortunately, she came. Because, you know, some people might be like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll take bus home. I'm like, okay, cool. And we got home, and then that's when we reached home. And then the next day we're hearing everything that happened. And then my cousin messaged me that he was around that circle bit. And it was his friend. So he saw his friend basically get stabbed. And I was like, he was there? And he was like, yeah. And obviously, if I knew he was there, I would never have, obviously, left him there. I would have told him to come with us. But that changed his perspective on everything so much. Yeah. Especially the fact that the environment he grew in compared to the environment I grew in was completely different. He grew up in Hornchurch, which is, unfortunately to say, is a predominantly white area where you wouldn't really find certain things like that to happen. Whereas obviously I grew up in Tottenham, as well as the fact that my dad lives in Brixton, so I grew up in Tottenham as well as Brixton. So, you know, I've seen a lot more, and as well as my brothers, you know, you see a lot more in different environments. So when he was explaining everything, my reaction compared to his reaction, obviously it's his friend, so I will understand his reaction is a lot more deeper than mine. But after that point, a few weeks later, there was another party in Hackney, and I was going to the one in Hackney, and he was like, he's not going because of what happened. And I remember a lot of people were like, oh, it's not that deep, you just go. But I was saying, you guys need to understand that to you it may not be that deep, because you see this happen every day. He has never seen or heard someone so close to him, something like this to happen, and he saw it happen too. So that's a bigger trauma.
Absolutely.
A much bigger trauma. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, because I saw it happen 10 times, I'm fine. The fact that I may have seen it 10 times and I'm not fazed by it is a lot more traumatic than the fact that, because I'm not really relieving my...
Processing what's going on.
I'm not processing. I'm just going about my day, and I'm like, if it happens, it happens. That's even worse. And that's how a lot of young people are looking at it. They're like, people die every day.
That's the saying. I was going to say that.
I mean, I'm saying the
Yes,
PC version of what they say. But that should not be the rules of the street, if you want to call it that way. Because why am I giving my life to a postcode or to a road that doesn't, even respect me?
The council could kick you out tomorrow. So.
Literally, and then what happens? I'm out here repping this postcode, and then the council moves me to another postcode. What am I supposed to do then? Do you get what I mean? So a lot of these young people are looking at it as, oh, it is what it is, but it really isn't. It isn't what it isn't.
Yeah, it's true.
And they don't speak on it because they just think, oh, it's the norm. By me expressing myself, I'm showing my weakness. When really and truly, by you not expressing yourself, that is making you weaker.
It'll damage you in the long run.
Yeah.
It comes out eventually. Nothing stays in forever. Which is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And why I really champion the school that I work in, that they provide this for the young people, that, there is a place that you can go to who will give you that space to talk about it and process it and think about how it might impact going forward. And I think that we need to... talking about stigmas, and I think that is a stigma, and I think it is like a rule of the street. I don't know, it's been a very long time since I was a young person, but there are codes. You don't say anything, everybody knows who it was, everybody knows why, but I'm not saying, and it's like when you're my age, you'll look back and think, I wish I did, but there is this kind of unspoken rule. Nobody snakes, nobody snitches, if you do, you're next, and all of that kind of stuff. And I literally see the fear in their faces sometimes. It's like, I want to get out of this, or, I don't want to be, I'm not even in it, but I want to get out of it. It's crazy. You don't subscribe to any particular postcode, but yet somehow you end up being embroiled in it. And it's really, really sad. I can't even express. I've sat with young men and listened to them talk about this stuff, and I'm here thinking, this is awful. Like, these are supposed to be the best years of your life, and you're living it like this. This isn't right. It really, really gets to me.
It does. It does.
Living in fear.
It's not right. But anyway.
It's true. And even speaking on upbringing, we're all from different backgrounds. Well, similar but different backgrounds, I'm going to assume. I don't know where you guys are from, but I'm from the Caribbean.
Same.
Okay, so we come from the same background. Mental health, again, is another issue that they don't want to speak on. It's almost a thing where it doesn't exist.
It's taboo.
It's taboo. It's something, nothing's wrong with you. You could speak to your parents or maybe your grandparents, depending on who you live with. And they could be like, well, I used to have to walk 10 miles to school with no shoes. I shouldn't laugh.
I'm laughing because I've heard it, not because it's funny.
They'll tell you some whole story, and then you go to the Caribbean and you realise that the school was literally round the corner. Right? So, and you speak on something you're going through, and they're like, oh, children of the day, you have your phone, you have this, you have that, you got everything you want, so what is the actual problem? But little do they realise that actually is the problem.
That is part of the problem.
That is part of the problem. Something I even said to my mum the other day, I was pretty brave. I was feeling a bit brave. I didn't say in a disrespectful way. She actually agreed with me though. Oh. And I said to my mum, I said, your generation is the reason why we're messed up. She was like, what? I was like, because I feel like a lot of parents have my mum's second generation British. No, first generation British, sorry. So her parents are from the Caribbean. So my grandparents are that Windrush generation where, they had to work very hard to get everything. So their kids are when I have kids, I don't want my kids to basically
have to go through
all of that. So then they have kids, and then there's that generation of people that's in between the ages of 30 and 40, who have kids that's mostly our age realistically, and they're the people that's it's almost like they've kind of let us run free but not run free at the same time. So I feel like they've given us a lot of leeway because I was saying not for me, But I would even say, like, for my nieces and nephews, certain things that I see them doing and my grandparents allow them to do it, I'm like, hold up a second. Because if that was me, that could never have run. And I feel like they've given them that extra mile and they're allowing them to get away with murder, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak on every parent because every parent's differently. But when I said that to her, she kind of like was like, you know what, that's actually true. Because they have kind of given a lot of less discipline. Now, I'm not saying to beat your kids because you don't. That does not help. Trust
not
me.
advertised
That doesn't help. That makes the situation worse sometimes. Like, that does not help. But when you do, it's almost like they're like, I've put a roof over your head, so what I tell you to do, you have to do. And having that, when parents say that, it's almost like you're obliged to do certain things. Now, I know you as my mum, I have to listen to you. But then when you say, oh, I put a roof over your head, I put clothes on your back, that's what you're supposed to do as a parent. So
It's true.
This is so interesting. You're talking about my generation here as of parents.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting
so
to me.
I think to myself, like, but that's what you're supposed to do because technically I didn't ask to be here. Same how you didn't ask to be here. So by you now bringing in, I put a roof over your head, I put food on your plate, as a parent, that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to leave me here starving. That's when social services take me away.
And then what now?
It's smart children like you.
See?
That's parents have to deal with. Absolutely correct there.
No, but yeah, it's almost like when you say I'm depressed or I have anxiety or something, they're like, but I've given you everything that you need.
What do you have? What
you depressed
What's
about?
wrong with
You've
you
got
now?
to be depressed.
Yeah,
Do you know what
because-
I went through as a child?
And it's like, but you can't compare what you went through compared to what I went through because it was a complete different time.
Yeah.
But it's funny because sometimes when they do compare, it's like you see the similarities in their childhood and your childhood at the time, your life right then, and you're thinking, so if you're complaining about that and you didn't like it, then how do you think I feel?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, like maybe you didn't think that, you know, maybe you didn't use the word depression or you didn't use, you know, a specific term or whatever, but you felt some type of way, didn't you? And like now we all know the words and stuff, and now we all know what type of different mental health illnesses you can get. I'm using the word, and now it's like, I don't know if it's like a trigger or I'm not sure.
It most probably is because I feel like sometimes you see that reflection. And, you know, again, referring back to having this conversation with my mum, when I was younger, a lot of people would say, or not just when I was younger, I don't know if this is a general term, but they say that your child would always turn out 10 times worse than you. You know, they say that. So my dad and my brothers be like, if you're like how your mum is now, when you're her age, you're going to be worse. I'm like, sorry, mum.
I just say, that is not the truth.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe with some kids, I don't know. So, I mean, sometimes you kind of look at it and it's about reflection and like how you were brought up. Because sometimes you be like, I went through this, so I don't want my kids to go through that. And because you're trying to avoid that so much, you end up doing it. Or like sometimes you be like, oh, I don't want to be like this type of person.
And then you end up
being like them because you're trying to avoid it so much that you end up being like that. And you don't realize the damage it's actually causing.
It's kind of like the law of attraction. Like with the law of attraction, they say whatever you put out there, you're going to receive. So if you keep putting out there, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, you're going to receive that, you're going to be that, you're going to do just that type of thing.
Yeah. And like, again, I feel like that's why a lot of young people don't want to speak about mental health or what they're going through because, for example, they can speak about it at school, but then it's getting resolved at school, but then when they go home, can they speak to their parents about it?
Yeah.
Or whoever they have at home? Because it's sometimes hard. You know, it might end up getting to a point where you actually just start crying and you'd be like, your mum or whoever comes in be like, what happened? And then you just end up saying everything. But then their response is like, okay, or how can you be crying over this when I had to go through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's like you might as well you feel like you have to just keep everything in because
it's true.
You're not being heard.
As a kid, I think it was at the age of 12 I was like throughout my whole childhood, I always had counselling because of a certain situation I went through. Always had counselling, always had to do like extra curriculum stuff, you know, just to ensure that I was good, like mentally and stuff. And at the age of 12, I remember around that age, I wasn't myself. I was like kind of all over the place. I didn't feel okay. And I told my mum was there, so was my grandma, my uncles, and I told them, I hear that you're acting up and stuff, what's wrong with you? And I was just like, you know, like I just broke down and was like, I feel really depressed, like I don't really know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
They were just like, what do you have to be depressed about? What's wrong with you? What's going on? Doesn't your mum feed you? Doesn't she put clothes on your back? Haven't you got a roof over your head? Like, you're happy and you fine. You've got a phone, don't you? Like, so, I was like, what? Like, what? And at the time, it really broke me because it was like, all I need is for you just to listen to me. All I need you is to hear me. Maybe you might not have the right response. Maybe you don't know what to say to me, but all I need you to do is listen. Do you know what I mean? It was hard at the time. Now I just laugh at it, but
again, that's a coping mechanism.
Exactly.
That's the thing, because sometimes all you want is just a hug. Literally, sometimes it's just like you don't even need someone to even just respond. You just want someone to hear you and even just just give you a hug and be like, maybe not say everything's gonna be fine, but a little bit of reassurance just to be like, you know what,
it's
you
that
can.
whole validation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So one of our last few points would mainly be talking on why is it important to talk on mental health.
For me, it's expression, isn't it? From my own experience of going through therapy myself, I didn't actually realise what was on the inside of me and the impact it was having on my everyday life, my relationships, until I sat down with somebody and began to talk about it. And I think we can very easily just amble through life thinking I'm okay, but actually not realising that we're not okay, but not being aware of that. So it would be like, if I was to describe it, it would be like walking with a limp but not realising it. And everyone else can see you're limping, but as far as you're concerned, you're walking absolutely fine, you know. And it wasn't until I think I'd got to a point of self-destruct, pressing my own self-destruct button, that I realised I actually really need to talk to someone about what is bubbling up on the inside of me. So that's why I would say it's important to talk, but equally important that you're heard. So you can talk till you're blue in the face, like Montana has said, but if the response that you're getting is, oh well, just deal with it, that's not going to help. So it needs to be that you speak to somebody who knows how to handle what you talk about.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, especially as someone that's been doing counselling my whole childhood. It helped a lot. It opened up my eyes to see what I actually didn't see. Like, I was limping and didn't even know that I was limping more time. And I feel like it is important, because if you do have mental health, or like you're feeling some type of way, it could be like anxiety, depression, or whatever it may be, you feel like something's not right, and sometimes it could, like, from experience from friends and stuff, it could mess with your head also. And you being able to have someone, whether it's a professional or a friend or a family member, for you to express yourself and talk to, that could go a long way. That could actually help you, like, open up your eyes, and it could bring you some peace and some clarity into, like, what you're feeling, or what your life is really, which direction it's actually going.
I mean, having this conversation is important in itself, especially the fact that you said you work in a secondary school. And I know I don't know for Montana, but for me personally, when I was in secondary school, I used to have to go counselling, and I used to hate it. Not even in the fact because I had to talk about my problems. It was the fact that I felt like they wasn't listening. I felt it was more of, I wouldn't even say it was a conversation. I felt like I was just talking, and then you was going on Google and, like, trying to research what it was that I had, and I was just like, I swear last week you told me I have this, so how are you telling me I have something else
What's
now?
going on?
Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Where it got to a point where it just became a thing where do you know what? I'm just not I'm gonna go because I'm missing RE or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, might as well. Or it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I prefer to be in RE because you're just wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt. And it gives me, now I feel more confident. I had social anxiety for a very long time. Like, the fact that I'm sitting here now shows that I've not fully overcome everything, but I've progressed. Because I remember I couldn't even just sit on a bus by myself without feeling anxious. I wouldn't want to sit in a position where if someone was sitting in front of me and they were talking to someone across from me, I used to feel anxious. I would have to get off the bus.
So uncomfortable.
I used to walk home from school sometimes, and I live in, like I said, in Seven Sisters, and my school was on Chernow Street. Yeah, exactly. So times I used to walk home just to avoid going on the bus because there was just too much going on. If I was with my friends, I was fine, but if I was going home by myself, there was just too much. Sometimes my mum used to just pick me up from school or drop me to school because it was just too much for me to handle.
To deal with.
I mean, even walking by myself and people talking behind me, I knew they weren't talking about me, obviously. They don't know who I am. But just that whole, again, that environment of people being around me, I couldn't.
Especially if they were laughing and you didn't know what they were laughing about.
Yeah, and then you then feel anxious about yourself, like, is there something on me? Are they laughing about something on me? And then you start getting paranoid.
Start walking a bit different. Like,
You get what I mean?
doing?
And then now you look dumb because you're just doing the absolute most. So it was small things like that. And I never realized that there was an issue until I actually randomly one day I was sitting on my bench on the bench at school. And I literally started crying. And everyone was like, what the hell just happened to you? I was like, I don't know. And then they told me to go to the school counsellor, and I spoke to her, but like I didn't feel any progress. You know, sometimes when you do talk to some people, you feel a progress, but with her, I didn't feel any progress. Then there was one teacher that came, but she left. And as soon as she left, I was like, I ain't going back because I don't want to talk to anyone other than her. Because she was the only person that I could talk to where I felt comfortable enough. And it didn't help that she left because then I was going into sixth form. And my sixth form life literally just went downhill to a point where when people used to see me, they'd be like, damn, I haven't seen you for like forever. I was there, but just no one ever saw me because I was there, but I wasn't there. I was there physically, but not mentally. So there were so many times I just wanted to just be like, let me just drop out. But luckily my mum was very supportive. So she just encouraged me to do it. She said, just finish it. And then after that, you can just do whatever you want. But she didn't force me to go uni because I said I don't want to go uni. Neither one of my parents. I was actually scared to tell my dad that I didn't want to go uni. And I literally told him why. And then he was like, if it's to do with you not feeling comfortable enough to go because of... If you don't want to go now, but later on, I was pretty surprised. I was like, okay, progression. I love to see it. But yeah, and I feel like having that environment around you, like you guys said, having that right friendship group, because sometimes it may not even be your at-home environment or your upbringing environment. It could literally be your friendship group that's bringing you down.
Yeah.
And I know that when I dropped a few friends, my life became so much more easier. I was like, my hair started growing.
My edges were coming back in.
You know what I mean? I was like,
No, we laugh about these things, but it's true. So true. And, you know, that is the outworking of stress. Because if you're holding it in your body, it has to come out somehow. And so, you know, I know for me, at my stage of heightened stress, I started to get little circles in the back of my head where, you know, I was getting alopecia because my hair was not growing. I was losing it. You know, just bursting into tears. I suffered with eczema for most of my life. Never had a clue that it was all triggered by stress and anxiety. And it wasn't until I realised all those things that I was able to do something about it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to kind of go back and address the school counsellor thing. Obviously, I'm going to be an advocate for school counsellors because I am one.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, like, that you actually spoke about that, because that will be some young people's experience of counselling, and in a wider sense as well, some sort of, I'm being very careful how I say this, some agencies that are out there, that are government agencies that are placed their mental health services are so understaffed and overworked and underpaid that it may seem like one in, one out, conveyor belt, which we just want to tick boxes, and that's what I hear from a lot of people. But there are some of us who actually love what we do, and we do it because we want to help and see change and see growth, and empower young people. I would absolutely cringe if any of the young people that I've spent time with actually walk around and say, well, actually, you know what, she was going on Google. And I was, and that's no lie. But the thing is to find resources to help people able to express themselves rather than actually, I don't prescribe and I don't diagnose. That's not what I do. What I do is I help you to understand yourself and dig deeper and find ways and strategies of how I can now cope with my life. It might not mean that you walk away from having sessions with me completely a different person, but you will have tools to be able to manage a situation that you wouldn't have been able to have coped with before. That you can actually step back and say, oh, I would have done this, but now I know because I spent time working on this, I can actually try this and keep doing until it becomes a part of who you are. Again, that's how I got to where I am. And the whole reason I went into counselling was because it had such a profound impact on me that I wanted to be that for other people, and I wanted to provide that space for other people to be able to find their way through their life like I did. I recognise and I hear that because I've heard it from other people, school counsellors, they just tick boxes and so on and so forth. But there are a cohort of counsellors that love what they do and love the young people that they work with and want to see them walking in the best, living their best life.
Literally.
Not show reel Insta best life, but actually living their best life.
It's true. I mean, that was one of the counsellors, that's the lady that left. She actually wanted to see progress, whereas I know that others, they used to just be there to head the school gossip.
It's true, because sometimes my friend,
that used to frustrate me.
It's true though. One of my friends, she recently just went into counselling, and she went through 4 or 5 different counsellors, and the 4th or 5th one, or the last one that she had a really good connection with this woman, and I was like, that's what you needed to find. You needed to find a connection with someone, because you can't go up to like a random person, like, for instance, like you have your friend groups. All your friends are friends for a different reason. Do you know what I mean? You would do something with one friend that you wouldn't do with the other, or vice versa type of thing. So that's all it really is, to be honest, just finding the connection and most likely finding a counsellor that actually loves doing what they do, like what they're doing.
I think the relationship underpins everything. If there's no relationship, it's not going to work. It really isn't.
Because I did feel a lot of the younger counsellors generally wanted to just know what was going on in the school life, and I'm like, but I'm not here to tell you what happened to Jack. I'm telling you what happened to me. I mean, I'm not here to gossip. It's not a gossip conversation. It's a conversation on how you're supposed to help me help myself. And a lot of the time it was a conversation on, I can take you out of your lesson. And then I come out the lesson, and then you're like, okay, so what happened? I heard there was something going on. Like, you're wasting my hour here. Literally. And there's some kids that enjoy that because they're coming out of the lesson and they're like, I can just tell you what happened in the playground.
Or I can just chill.
Yeah, and they're not looking at it as a session. They're just looking at it as, like you said, a time to chill. So there is no progression. And that's why they keep going. Because there's no progress. And that also does kind of bleed in that another stigma of that's why they go. Because I remember in my school, they used to be like, I'm going to see blah, blah, blah. And then teachers are like, are you really going to speak to her? Or are you going to tell her what happened at lunchtime? So then that became a thing
Mm-hmm.
that the teachers then started realizing that are you really going for that reason,
Yeah,
or
pretty
are you
much.
going just to sit down and waste time?
It's true. I used to do that. I'm not gonna lie. There were some times in school where I was like, oh, I'm not going to that lesson. I'm going to my counsellor.
It's
And I'm gone.
literally, that's what
'Cause I
you would
didn't wanna
say.
be in
We
the
are
lesson.
very aware. We are very aware that
No,
that happens.
I never lied.
Yeah.
They used to come in. Why you here? I didn't want to be in that lesson. Miss.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? I was never like. I would always tell the truth. I was very blunt with it, and they'll be like, all right, cool. Like, just talk to me. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's when they start putting in requests. Miss, can you pick me up at period 3? No,
Yeah.
I will pick you up when I can.
Yeah,
There's
literally.
boundaries in this thing.
Yeah,
you know,
there
and that's
is.
the whole relationship thing as well.
So do you have any like resources where you could like speak on, like, yeah, or websites? I don't know, just something.
Resources that I could speak of. That's a tricky one. I mean, I know places, there's organisations out there, and one that I would definitely highlight is Young Minds.
Oh, yeah, I know Young Minds.
They do great work for young people. They have mental health advocates who will talk about their experiences. Will they signpost to lots of other organisations, because there are organisations that deal with specific mental health or mental well-being issues like anxiety. There's organisations that deal with that. You've got Mind as well, and all these other organisations that support. Off the top of my head, I wish I had a list of them that I could sort of reel off. But for myself, I use a lot of resources, but what I do is I work with the person that's in the room, and I take into consideration what they've brought into that session, and then I have to trawl through all my kind of internal information that I've picked up along the years to think, well, that fits that, and resource it that way. I think for me, one of my most common resources that I use is the circle of control, because I find that anxiety is such a massive issue, especially over like this whole 18 months with the pandemic, and people are just worried and anxious about everything and anything. The circle of control will talk about what's in your control and what's not in your control, and then being able to focus on the things that you can control, which are what clothes you're going to put on today. Things that you can't control is other people wearing masks in a shop around you, and just little resources like that, and just build them into your life. And you can find things online where they will be resources that you can work with, and it will also talk to you about how to use those resources. But on the flip side of that, I will say that there are a lot of people out there that are going online and giving a lot of advice that are not qualified. And a lot of it is sometimes their experience and what works for them, and sometimes they just want to go on there and I'm a therapist but not qualified, and just talk from what they know of other people. Just be careful who you listen to, and what platforms you get that information from. You'll see on TikTok there's a lot of things that people put on TikTok, do this to help your mental health. Bear in mind, then their mental health and their mental well-being is not yours. So what works for them may not necessarily work for you. So my overarching message is always get to know you and build your self-awareness up, and do things that you find makes things better for you. For example, I could say to Montana, if you're stressed out, go and have a soak in the bath, go for a walk. That might be the worst thing for Montana. I don't want to sit in the bath, because when I sit in the bath, I'm just going to sit there thinking about everything, and I don't want to think about everything, But me sitting in the bath helps me everything to dissolve. So I'm really careful to be prescriptive and say do this and do that. What I would say is know yourself, know how you are, know what works for you, and do that in a safe way.
Yeah.
Emphasizing
Safe.
the safety. It's got to be safe.
Yeah.
Healthy versus unhealthy. Got to stay away from the unhealthy. Stick with the healthy.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was impactful.
there was.
Right?
There's one thing I do kind of want to kind of follow up on, and I know this is going to be in our next podcast, but it's like just a smooth kind of like trail onto is how drug use as well has an impact on mental health. I just wanted to have like a quick kind of like a teaser into the next conversation. And obviously, as you're a professional or experienced counselor, should I say, not professional, but an experienced.
Professional.
I'll
take professional.
Professional, yeah. And obviously working with young people, and within that age group, that is a lot. There's a lot of peer pressure for that. So again, how would you speak on it with young people?
For me, I'll tell you what I've seen, and I know I've got a very short amount of time, that it's a massive thing compared to my day. Yeah, it was dabbled with, but nowadays it's like smoking cigarette, and you know, and we know what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And I know and I've seen the impact of smoking that too much has had on people's mental health, and it's something that I would not encourage. I know there's a lot of but it makes me feel. I can talk about my own experiences with that and how it literally altered things in my mind.
Yeah.
So you know, I was seeing things, and so I don't encourage that, but I don't know if that's what you wanted, where you were going with this.
That is where I was going. More on like with young people and how it's very much out there for them, and how it's very much like a, you know,
Easy access.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Easy
It's
access.
you know, it's easy. It's very not hard.
You'll just be going to the corner shop and someone will stop you. Oh, do you? Oh,
Yeah. So I mean, that did still answer my question.
Yeah, it does. It definitely alters. It's mind altering.
Yeah.
And a too much use.
So where can we find your Instagram or Facebook or your socials?
My socials. I am on Facebook under Hidden Treasure Counselling. I'm also on Instagram, but I can't remember what it is.
We follow it on MVP, so I'll find it.
It's terrible. I am on Instagram. Just if you want, you can search up Hidden Treasure again. Hidden Treasure, not with an S, counselling.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I mean, do you want Montana's socials as well?
Well, cool. I'm on Instagram as the Full Monty, MONTII, and just follow me on that.
Guys, that's the end of today's episode. Thank you to Kelly and Montana. You guys have been great. The conversation was amazing, and we definitely will keep in touch. Thank you. Thank you. That was a lovely episode. Let's have a round of applause, guys.